There are two versions of you living in the same body. One performs strength. One quietly waits to be met. Most adults spend their entire lives inside the first one. They never even learn the second one exists. You learned early that strength was survival, that softness invited danger, that control kept you safe. So you built a self that could carry anything, a self that never cracked, a self the world could rely on. And it worked, for a long time, until one quiet night the performance began to feel heavier than the pain underneath. This is the moment Carl Jung called the first crack in a persona. The mask begins to slip, the real self begins to stir. Today you will meet both versions of yourself, the performer and the one being performed for. There are two ways to live inside a human body. One of them is exhausting, the other is whole. Let us begin with the first one, the one almost everyone you know is currently living inside. The performed self is built from rules you never agreed to. Be strong, be useful, do not need anything. You learned these rules before you could speak, from parents, from schools, from every glance that punished weakness. So you became impressive, capable, reliable, the one who could be counted on no matter what happened. People praised this self. They told you how strong you were, how together, how put together. And every compliment quietly reinforced the cage, because what they were praising was the armor, not the human. The performed self has one core fear underneath all of it, the fear of being seen as actually human. Because humans need things. Humans break. Humans cannot always carry the weight without trembling. So the performer cannot rest, the performer cannot ask, the performer cannot say the words, "I am not okay." Jung called this construct the persona, the social mask we wear to function inside the world. The persona is not the enemy, you need it. Without it, you could not walk into a meeting or a family dinner. But here's where most people get lost. The persona was meant to be a tool you use, not a self you become. When you forget you are wearing it, the persona begins to wear you, and the real self gets buried alive. You can feel this, the strange exhaustion at the end of social days, the quiet flatness on Sunday nights, the sense that you're succeeding at something you do not actually want, the hollow ache after every win. This is the persona working overtime, performing a strength that has lost contact with the one performing it. Stay with me here. The next part will explain something about yourself you have never been able to articulate. The performer cannot receive love. They can only receive admiration. And admiration is a cold replacement for being known. People around you love the version they can rely on. The version that holds steady. The version that does not need them. But that version is not you. That version is your survival adaptation, dressed up as your personality. And every time someone loves the performance, the real self goes one layer deeper underground. Quieter, more forgotten. This is how high-functioning loneliness is built, surrounded by people who love a version of you that is not actually home. Now let us look at the second way, the way almost no one teaches you, the way Jung spent his life trying to describe. The real self is not stronger than the performed self, it is more honest, and honesty has its own kind of power. The real self does not need to be invulnerable. It can tremble, it can ask for help. It can say, "I do not know." This is not weakness. This is the dropping of a costume that was never the truth of you to begin with. The real self has needs. It has tenderness. It has rage. It never let itself feel. It has grief it carried alone. When you first meet this version of yourself, you may not recognize it. It may feel like a stranger, because you have been living next to it for decades without ever turning your head to look directly at it. Jung called the process of meeting this self-individuation, the slow becoming of who you actually are. Not where you were trained to be, not who you needed to be to survive, who you actually are underneath all of it. Individuation is not a peak experience. It is not a breakthrough weekend. It is a long, quiet returning home. The real self does not perform strength. It carries strength differently. It carries it through honesty, not armor. This is the part most modern self-help misses entirely. They teach you to upgrade the performer, to make a better mask. But Jung understood something deeper. You cannot upgrade the costume into a soul. At some point, you must take it off. Picture this. You walk into a room you have walked into 1,000 times. Family, coworkers, old friends. You feel the familiar tightening, the face adjusting, the voice rising slightly into its usual frequency. This is the persona activating. It happens automatically. You did not choose it. It chose you a long time ago. Now imagine a second possibility. You walk in, you feel the tightening, and you do not follow it. You let your shoulders stay soft. You let your voice stay low. You let yourself be exactly the size you actually are. This is what meeting your real self feels like in the wild, not a dramatic transformation, a quiet refusal to perform. Comment below if you have ever felt this. The moment you stopped performing in a small way and felt strangely free. Share one word that describes the version of you that you have been hiding the longest. One word is enough. Now let me show you how to actually move from the first self to the second, the bridge most people never cross. The first step is the hardest. You must admit that the performance is exhausting you, not failing you, exhausting. Most people will not say this out loud, because the performance is also what they are praised for, what they are paid for. To name the exhaustion is to threaten the entire identity you have built, and the psyche resists this fiercely. But somewhere inside you, there is a quieter voice, a voice that has been waiting for you to listen. That voice is not weakness. That voice is the real self, trying to make contact through the noise of the performance. The second step is to identify where the persona is heaviest. Where do you perform strength most aggressively? For some, it is work. For others, it is parenting. For others, it is romance. For others, it is family of origin. Wherever the performance is heaviest, the real self is most buried. That is where the work begins. The third step is the practice. And tonight I want you to do something most adults have never done in their life. Sit alone for 10 minutes. No phone. No music, no task. Just you and the room you're in. Notice the moment your mind reaches for performance. Even alone, even with no audience, you will catch it. You will catch yourself rehearsing conversations, performing competence to no one, practicing the face for tomorrow. This rehearsal is the persona. Watching it from a small distance is the beginning of meeting your real self. You are not the rehearsal. You are the one noticing it. That noticer is the self Jung was pointing toward. Sit with that noticer. Do not try to fix the performance, just keep watching it, gently, like watching weather. 10 minutes a day, for 30 days, this is the practice. It is small, it will change everything. What happens when you cross this bridge is not what people expect. You do not become softer or weaker. You become harder to manipulate, because the people who used to access you through your performance no longer can. You become more boring to those who needed your armor, and more magnetic to those who can meet a real human. You'll lose some relationships. Be prepared. The performer had fans. The real self has companions. These are different categories of people. The first crowd will thin. The second crowd will find you slowly. Your work will change too. Not always in what you do, but in why you do it. The motor underneath changes. You stop performing strength to prove something. You start expressing strength because it is simply true of you. This is the difference Jung was pointing toward his entire career. Imitation versus expression, costume versus self. You will notice your body changing, less clenched, less braced, less ready for an attack that is not coming. You will notice your sleep changing. The performer cannot fully sleep. It is always on duty. The real self can rest. You will notice your relationships changing. Conversations get quieter, more real, less performance from both sides. Carl Jung wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is becoming who you truly are, not who you were taught to be. This is the privilege most adults never claim. They die having only ever met the performer, never the one underneath. You do not have to be one of them. The door is small, the door is quiet, but the door is real and it is here. If you are watching this, some part of you already knows the performance is ending. That is why this video found you. You are standing at the edge of the bridge. You can return to the performance. Many do. It is familiar. It is praised. Or you can take 10 minutes tonight, sit alone, watch the rehearsal, begin the long return home to yourself. The real self is not waiting somewhere far away. The real self is sitting underneath every breath you have ever taken. It has been waiting your entire life, not for you to become someone better, for you to stop pretending to be someone else. Stop performing strength. The performance was never the strength. The willingness to be seen without the costume is. Your shadow is not your enemy. Your persona is not your enemy. Your real self is not waiting to punish you. All of them are waiting to be integrated, to be met, to be allowed to live inside the same human at the same time. That integration is the work. That work is the path. That path is the one Jung called individuation. And it begins tonight with 10 minutes, with no audience, with the simple act of stopping the performance for one breath. What you resist persists. What you face transforms. What you integrate becomes power. This is the Jungian way. If this meant something real in you, subscribe to the Archetype Code. We decode one hidden part of your psyche each week. The performance is optional. The real self has been here the whole time. Tonight, you can finally turn around and meet it.